Story 1. I'd been working the overnight shift at a gas station off Route 30 in Ohio for about 8 months when this happened. The shift ran from midnight to 8 a.m., and by that point, I knew every part of it by heart. Between 2 and 5 in the morning, you'd get almost nobody. A truck driver here and there, someone grabbing a coffee before a long drive, and then nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator units and the flickering of the light above Pump 4, which maintenance kept promising to fix. I used to prop my feet up behind the counter and watch videos on my phone during those hours. The night it happened was a Tuesday in November, around 2:30 a.m. The car park was empty when a car pulled in and stopped over by the air pump, which sits off to the right and isn't really visible from behind the counter. But after a few minutes, I heard the front door open and a man walked in. He was probably mid-40s, wearing a jacket that was way too big for him, and something about the way he moved was immediately off. The kind of off that you feel in your chest before your brain has even finished processing it. He walked the aisles slowly, picking things up and putting them back down without really looking at what he was touching. I gave him a nod when he passed the counter, and he looked at me for just a beat too long without saying anything back. After about 10 minutes, he came and stood at the counter without putting anything down to buy. He asked really quietly if there was a bathroom. I pointed to the door at the back and said yes. He went in. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I told myself he was sick, that it was nothing. Then 15 minutes went by, and I was on my feet without even realizing I'd stood up. I called my manager, and he told me to stay behind the counter and not go near that bathroom door, no matter what. So I stood there with my phone in my hand and waited. At the 20-minute mark, the door opened and the man walked out. He didn't look at me, didn't stop, just went straight through the store and out the front door, got in his car, and was gone. I stood there for probably 2 full minutes before I could make myself go check the bathroom. The window at the back was wide open. I hadn't even known that window could open. It faced directly out toward the car park, right where my car was sitting alone in the dark. I still don't know what he was planning. I put my notice in 2 weeks later. Story 2. I worked overnight security at a corporate office building for just over a year. 12 floors, empty after 6 p.m., and my job was to do a round every hour, check that everything was locked up, and monitor the camera feeds from the desk on the ground floor. I don't scare easily, and I don't have an overactive imagination, and I really want you to know that before I tell you what happened. It was a Wednesday night, just after 2 a.m. I'd finished my round and was back at the desk when I noticed on the camera feed that a single overhead light was on at the far end of floor 7. I knew for certain it had been off during my 1 a.m. round because I have this habit of doing a visual sweep of the lights before I leave each floor. It was off at 1 a.m. It was on now. I took the elevator up. When the doors opened, the first thing I noticed was the smell. A room smells different when someone's been sitting in it recently. There's a warmth to the air, something almost human about it. The floor was supposed to be empty, and it didn't smell empty. I walked toward the lit section and saw that one of the desk chairs had been pulled out and turned slightly, like someone had stood up in a hurry. On the desk in front of it was a coffee cup. I reached out and put my hand around it. It was still warm. I called it in immediately. They swept the whole building. They found a fire escape door on floor 6 that was unlocked with no explanation, and muddy footprints going up the stairwell from that level, but didn't find anyone inside. The coffee cup came back clean, no prints at all. My supervisor told me it was probably a maintenance worker who'd forgotten to sign in. He said it without meeting my eye. I've thought about that cup almost every day since. Story 3. I worked the overnight front desk at a hotel for almost 3 years, and in that time, I saw a lot of strange things. Late-night check-ins are their own category of weird, because people who show up at 3 a.m. are usually exhausted or stressed, and normal social rules kind of fall away. I understood that. I was used to it. But nothing prepared me for the man who came in on a Thursday night in early February. He walked through the front doors at 3:15 a.m. carrying no luggage. He gave me a name, I pulled up the reservation, and it was there. But from the moment he stepped up to the desk, something felt wrong. He wouldn't look at me directly and kept glancing back toward the entrance, like he was checking whether someone had followed him in. When I asked about a wake-up call, he actually flinched, just a small tightening of his whole body. But I was 2 feet away and I saw it clearly. I handed him his key card, told him his room number, and watched him walk to the elevator. Something just didn't sit right, so after he'd gone, I looked at the booking more carefully. It had been made 40 minutes before he arrived, paid with a prepaid card, 1 night only. I called the security guard and asked him to do a quiet walk past that floor. While I was waiting, I pulled up the corridor camera, and the man was standing completely still in the hallway just outside the elevator. He wasn't walking to his room, wasn't on his phone, just standing there facing the wall for close to 7 minutes. Then he walked to his room and the door closed. I stayed in contact with the security guard on and off for the rest of the night. At 6:55 a.m., he came back to the front desk and slid his keycard across without speaking. And then, just before he turned to leave, he looked at me properly for the first time. It wasn't threatening or aggressive. It was just the look of someone who knows something about you that you don't know they know. Then he walked out to a car that had been sitting in the car park running all night and was gone. Housekeeping called down about an hour later. The bed hadn't been touched, the bathroom was dry. Nothing in the room had been moved at all. He'd paid for a hotel room, stood in a corridor for 7 minutes, sat alone in the dark for 6 hours, and left without a word. Nobody ever worked out who he was or what he was waiting for. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.